Hello. Welcome back to my porch. Today we're doing a wine video because the patrons, the people who are actually funding me to do this channel, keep demanding wine videos. I keep saying, well, I'm supposed to be a spirits channel. And they're like, no, we want more wine. So we're doing wine today. In particular, they've been demanding that I do some kind of like listicle kind of video. So, building a wine palette in 10, 15 bottles, that kind of thing. And I have resisted this for a couple of reasons. First of all, because in principle, I think the best way to learn wine is kind of from the bottom up or food up. Let's call it the food up approach, which is where you start with food you like and you go out and you find and you try wines that go well with that food. And then you can combine that with just going to lots of tastings. If there is a wine shop near your area, they're probably doing tastings on occasion, and you should go and attend those. I mean, the combination of those two things, finding wines to pair with your food and going to tastings, you will learn wine to the extent that you need to know it in a couple of months, tops. However, as much as I've been saying that, people really want, some kind of call it a textbook down approach, kind of the basics of wine from not a scholarly perspective of you're walking into a store and you need to know the basic categories, that kind of thing. So I have. Again, I resist this for the second reason that I don't know where you are. I don't know what's available near where you are, and I don't know what pricing is where you are. So it's really hard for me to kind of be very general if I wanted to do that kind of video. Now, there are wines that are sold everywhere, but those tend not to be the wines that you want to go hunt down. A lot of wines with big names and big distribution just are not that good. So what I've done instead is I thought to myself, well, maybe I can go very specific instead. I can provide one specific example. And, where's my receipt? Where did my receipt go? Oh, God. Oh, there it is. No, it tore. Oh, that's fine. I can provide one specific example. And my reasoning for that example, for what it looks like, and have y'all kind of learn lessons, understand the logic of why I picked the things that I picked. So yeah, the scenario I've imagined for this is I am buying a case of wine for a friend, and I've explained the sort of food up approach to him, and he's like, no, I just want you to buy me a case of wine that is going to sort of give me a beginner's education in wine, in general. Like basic categories I should probably know. And your budget is going to be around $200, a little under, a little over is fine. 12 bottles, go. And so what I have done is I've gone to Binny's, which is the big chain store around here. A lot of this stuff should get national distribution, but even if it doesn't, I'm going to explain to you why I did the picture that I did. And I bought 12 bottles of wine. I bought a case, and I paid for these 12 with all sales combined, and you get 10% off on wines that are not already on sale. It doesn't stack, but And I paid, receipt's torn now, I paid $204 odd. So pretty good. And I will explain to you what I got. So what were my picks? Well, I wanted to do 5 internationally styled single varietal wines from the kind of big international varietals. Some are going to say New World style. I prefer to say international style because a lot of New World style wines are made in the old world these days. So what are we doing? We're doing Cabernet Sauvignon. We are doing Chardonnay. We are doing Sauvignon Blanc. We are doing Merlot, and we are doing Pinot Noir. Let's see. I also wanted to do some important blends from important representative wines from particular areas. And so I wanted to do a Bordeaux, from Bordeaux, red Bordeaux. Sorry, I wanted to do a red Rioja. I wanted to do a Chianti from Tuscany, and I really wanted to do a Riesling from off-dry Riesling from Germany. And then beyond that, I wanted to do a Rosé and a sparkling wine. And that was kind of all I had space for. This left me room for one joker, one wild card that I could kind of pick. Just for myself, just for all you spirits folks out there. And my wild card, let's start with this, should be no surprise for anyone who's been watched the other wine videos. It is, I'm going to put this box down so I can get, put you over here. My wild card is a Chinon. This is a Cabernet Franc from the Loire Valley. This is the style of wine that made me interested in wine. Because if you are a spirits nerd, you have not smelled anything like this. These wines have absolutely crazy aromatics. They smell like food. Cabernet Franc it's made in a whole bunch of different styles kind of around the world. This style is lean and intensely aromatic. Expect bell pepper. I haven't tried this. I've had this wine before, not in this vintage. Expect bell pepper. Expect crazy flowers, violets in particular. Expect some dark fruits, black fruits. Expect some cracked black pepper. Expect some smokiness, maybe. These just tend to be really, really aromatically fun. And food-wise, they kind of go with everything. I mean, they're just phenomenal wines. If I had to pick one style of wine to kind of drink the rest of my life, this would be it. This is a Chinon, which is one of the big production areas for Cabernet Franc in Loire Valley, which is central France. This is the Lambert Les Terrasses 2022, 100% Cabernet Franc. What you want in a Cabernet Franc is, this particular area. I'm really saying go get this particular area. Lots of other places doing good this leaner style of Cab Franc, but just your store's going to have this. If they have any of this stuff, they're going to have one of these. So yeah, go buy a Chinon, Bourgogne, Saumur Champagny. You'll sometimes see Anjou Rouge too. Those are okay. And you want relatively low ABV, ideally below, 13.5 or so, at least below 14% alcohol by volume. And yeah, this is fun. I think it has a little bit of carbonic maceration too. But anyways, this is about $16, $17. That is my wild card pick, which is not covered by any of the other categories. So what else did I buy? What else did I throw into this case? Oh, I should add, for you patrons, I will be trying all of these wines and providing little photos and brief reports on them over on the Patreon page, because I owe you guys. I really do. So, first up, I wanted to do a internationally styled Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet Sauvignon it's a little bit tricky because in its natural state, if you just kind of let it go as a wine grape, it tends towards being a little bit of a brute. It tends towards high acidity, high tannins, and a little bit of a green note, similar to what you get in Cabernet Franc, actually, but it tends more mint than bell pepper. So these things really tend to, if you let them go on their own, they would just rip your mouth right out, and that's fantastic. They age really well. They're incredibly good food wines for any kind of heavier food, steaks, stews. If you want to eat a raw bison, Cabernet Sauvignon is a good pick. And of course, it's one of the most important grapes in Bordeaux. Here's the thing: because it's attained a reputation of being the king of grapes, which means everyone wants to drink it. However, winemakers have figured out that most people, despite saying they want to drink Cabernet Sauvignon, don't actually want to deal with real proper Cabernet Sauvignon. So they will typically pull as many tricks as they can to soften it up. Most notably, egregious uses of oak on these wines. So internationally styled Cabernet Sauvignon, they can be fantastic wines, but you got to be careful, particularly in California, which really pioneered this approach. Especially now, like they can just be very, very gloopy. It can just feel like you're drinking, melted blackcurrant ice cream a lot of the time. So yeah, I mean, the classic place to go for this style of cab is California. But I wouldn't, or at least I would be very, very careful if I were to buy a sub $20 cab here. This one is way below $20. It's like 16, 17 again. To turn you around. The place I much prefer to go in the U.S. for cab at that price point would be Washington State. You also have to be careful, but not as careful. And I think the price points are better. The wines are just generally a little bit more built like they should be. Of course, the homeland of cab is Bordeaux. You can also look in Tuscany. Usually it's used in blends there, but there are some single varietal bottlings that can, pull this style off really well. Cali, Washington State, and Tuscany at their best all are kind of a really good, clean example of the style. They don't tend to have the herbaceousness. Another place that tends to be a clean example of the style is Argentina. Argentina makes some really killer good cabs in this style. They tend to be really floral, too. They really bring the violets. But there's no Argentina in this case because I had limits. Now, if you want a little bit of green in your cab, if you want it showing that kind of minty note, I think the places to go are Australia. Well, not all of Australia, but Coonawarra. The rest of Australia can be a little bit on the cleaner side. And my favorite place, personally, for this style, Chile. Chile is just it's a great country for a whole lot of different styles of wine, but cab in particular. In Maipo, this is Maipo, right? Yeah, Maipo Valley, kind of like the Napa Valley of Chile, if you like. You'll see big old cabs, big old Carmeneras down there. Casas del Bosque, Gran Reserva, 2019 Cabernet Sauvignon. This was about $17, $18, and as I recall, this brings the grainy tannins. It brings a fair amount of acidity, but it also brings a ton of dark fruit and a lot of oak. And that's, I kind of want that balance. So I'm probably going to break this out with a steak and tell all y'all on the Patreon about it. So that was my pick. South Africa also really does really good cabs. And as long as we're talking about South Africa, that was my pick for Chardonnay. A lot of these international grapes can be very tricky, none more so than Chardonnay. Chardonnay is one of the rare grapes where you can grow it kind of anywhere, in any soil and any climate. There are going to be huge differences in the wine that comes out, but you can do it. So particularly in like colder areas like Chablis or Tasmania, you will see Chardonnays that lean in a very sour apple, lemony direction. It's very razor sharp white wines. However, you could also go to Southern California and you will get wines that taste that really express like pineapple, and usually they go along with a lot of oak and aggressive malolactic fermentation, which basically gives you a taste like vanilla popcorn. So that can be a valid style. There are a lot of really bad examples of that style, but that can be valid. And you'll find kind of everything in between with Chardonnay. So it's really a little bit of a chameleon. Don't assume that you know what a wine's going to taste like just because it has Chardonnay in the label. It can go a lot of different directions. For really austere examples, Chablis in kind of off of Burgundy in eastern France, also Tasmania, and a couple of other places, but those are the big ones. If you want the big, lush pineapple and popcorn style, just go to Cali. I mean, there's other places that do it, but they pioneered it. I mean, just get Bogle Phantom or something. Not that I like that wine, but that'll tell you what it tastes like. And then there's all kinds of stuff in the middle. There's great shards coming out of, Burgundy in France. That is its original home, eastern France. Terrific shards coming out of, Chile and Argentina and Australia. Oregon makes some really, really good shards these days. And my pick was South Africa. South Africa kind of does everything wine-wise. You can get big red, you can get a lighter red, you can get big whites, you can get lighter whites. Sparkling wine, rosé. South Africa does a lot. I grabbed this one because it really sounded kind of like the middle ground I was looking for. It is 13% alcohol by volume, which is pretty low, which suggests this is going to be kind of racy and food-friendly, high acid. But you check the tech sheet, and it also says there's a split in the aging in different processes. Some of this is aging in neutral vessels. So I can't remember if it's concrete or stainless steel, but stuff. And then you've got another portion of this which ages in oak. So you will get a little bit of that vanilla stuff, but not too much. Just enough to add a little bit of a layer while not interfering with the food friendliness of this. So yeah, I like these wines. I might break this out for maybe some Mediterranean food. I bet this would go great with like hummus and falafel. Oh yeah. So yeah, basically that's what I would say. As for, when you're picking a Chardonnay out, kind of know what you're getting into. First, if you really hate oak, go to Chablis, go to Tasmania, maybe some other parts of Australia. But check the tech sheet if you get a chance. If you want something in the middle, get something that sounds like it's going to be in the middle. A little bit of oak, not too much oak, and not too high in alcohol, which is what I've gone with here. All right, so that is Chardonnay. My Chardonnay pick. Sauvignon Blanc, the other big international white varietal. I went New Zealand because I kind of had to. Yeah, Sauvignon Blanc, originally from Bordeaux again. Well, really through the Loire Valley. I need some water or something. The thing about Sauvignon Blanc is, in its natural state, it tends towards ripping high acidity and crazy aromatics. And aromatics particularly throwing a lot of herbs at you. A little bit like the Cab Franc we talked about. But some people will say bell pepper. You will hear cat pea. I find celery a lot on these things, along with tons of fruit. And New Zealand has really pioneered just like taking those elements and pushing them up to the nth degree. A New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc you should hold your glass, not even put your nose in the glass, but just hold the glass anywhere near your face, and you should go, oh Jesus, because the aroma is completely enveloping you. When you taste it, you should say, oh Jesus, because the acid has just completely, covered your mouth in drool. Like, that is what should be happening with these things. I have picked a reasonably well-priced one. There's lots of things I could say about New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. It's kind of a category where you sort of get what you pay for, except for Kim Crawford, which I think is just not a good. The big brands are not very good examples of what you get. Pay more, you get better wines with more depth. Pay less, you get hopefully some aromatics and acid, and that's about all. But this is a good example of a simple Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. Internationally, you'll see Sauvignon Blanc also in Bordeaux, kind of more classically made, pulling back a little bit on the madness. You will see it in California, which tends to be a little bit hotter, which tones down the aromatics and the acid a little bit as well. You'll also see it in Chile, South Africa, a few other places. There's not as much like stylistic variation on Sauvignon Blanc as with some other varietals. It tends to be crazy aromatic and high in acid. You don't tend to see a lot of oak on it. That said, like Chardonnay, it's a little bit divisive because some people just cannot handle the cat pea and the celery. Anyways, go buy one of these, something like this. You want low alcohol, 13% or lower, and just go Marlborough. I mean, there's other places that making Sauvignon Blanc that are very, very good, but don't think about it too much. Just buy a Marlborough one. Next up. Oh, Pinot Noir. I'm a little bit of a tyrant. I'm a little bit authoritarian about Pinot Noir, particularly from California, because where do I start? There's a lot of Pinot Noir in California, which is very big and bold, over 14% alcohol, super duper dark when you pour it. And it just tastes like, cherry pie or something. Not cherry pie, like vanilla Mr. Pibb or something. And I feel like with those kinds of Pinot Noirs, why do you bother? Like, what? Seriously, buy a Grenache instead. Grenaches are cheaper, and they're usually better for what you pay. The thing to know about Pinot Noir, well, there's a couple of things to know, but the big thing is it's a pain in the ass. It's a prima donna. It's difficult to grow. And that means there's a lot of crappy Pinot Noir out there. Good Pinot Noir, in my humble opinion, should be a leaner wine. It should not go above 14% alcohol. It should have sky high acid, and it should be light in color. You should be able to see your fingers through when you pour it into a glass. It should be extremely food friendly. Will you get some fruit? Will you get some cherry? Yes, you should. But you should also get your acid, and also you really should be getting some savory characteristics in a good Pinot Noir. Look for mushrooms. Look for soy sauce. That kind of thing. So yeah, these wines, again, they can be prima donnas, and the cheap ones can be not very good, and there's a lot of just bombs out there. General rule, if you hear someone in the advertising say it's a Pinot for cab lovers, just walk away. If you see it anywhere above 14% alcohol by volume, just walk away. It's not going to be worth it. Otherwise, maybe, carry on. So, of course, the big place for Pinot Noir is going to be Eastern France, Burgundy. That's its kind of home territory. And they do make some good ones, although prices are getting a little bit silly. And there's lots of other places that make good Pinot Noir, too. South Africa, again. New Zealand, Australia, again. I keep coming back to these places. Chile. Chile is kind of my go-to place for budget Pinot Noir. They just do it really, really well. But I already did my Chilean wine, so I'm not going to do that again. In California, yes. But again, I have to say the same thing again. You have to be careful. There's a lot of, it's a minefield. California Pinot Noir below $20 is an absolute minefield. I mean, over $20 too. There's a lot of really just manipulated wines out there. Oregon, I think, is Finger Lakes too, but I have 12 bottles to work with here. We won't talk about Finger Lakes today. Oregon generally is a good place to go for Pinot Noir in the U.S. Again, avoid the big names. Go for the smaller producers. I bought Stringtown here. Stringtown Willamette Pinot Noir, 2023 from Eugene Wine Cellars in Willamette Valley. 13.5% alcohol. Pretty lean in style. I've had an earlier vintage of this. You can see your fingers through it. It's not an amazing Pinot, but I think it's pretty solid for the price, and we'll see how it goes. I think I will throw maybe some salmon at this. We'll see. What you're looking for in Pinot is from a colder area with lower in alcohol. And there's some good German Pinots as well. All right, so those are my 5 internationally styled single varietal wines. Oh, no, wait. No. There's one more. I almost forgot Merlot, which is unfair because Merlot is terrific. Merlot, one of the great wine grapes of the world, totally gets a bad rap. Some of that rap is deserved. We'll talk about it. Okay, so Merlot is the grape of Bordeaux. The majority of grapes grown in Bordeaux are Merlot. most wines made in Bordeaux are majority Merlot, although they typically tend to be blends. We'll get to Bordeaux in a second. It's a terrific grape. It's pretty high in acid, pretty high in tannins. The thing is, it's always placed in contrast to Cabernet Sauvignon, which is sky high in acid and tannins. And so Merlot has always been regarded kind of as the soft, feminine one. And winemakers who have already been softening up their Cabernet Sauvignons have taken that to the opportunity to just make gross, gloopy Merlots that are just terrible. There's a lot. However, and that has really ruined the reputation of Merlot, along with Sideways. Although I really think it was the crappy wines more than Sideways, if I'm totally honest. However, it can be the basis of really phenomenal wines. Great burger wines. I mean, in some ways more versatile than Cabernet Sauvignon. You don't have to Cab. You really have to make sure you're not. It's not going to overwhelm the food. Merlot, you can be a little bit more. You can kind of let it go a little bit more. But yeah, so Merlots. There's Merlot kind of grown everywhere, but not a lot of it makes to your shelves because stores have figured out it doesn't sell very well, which is an absolute shame. California Merlot below $20. Again, it's a minefield, but honestly, I would say it's less of a minefield than Cab is. If I'm totally honest, I think there's some good Merlots out there from Cali, but it's not the first place I would go. Other places obviously Bordeaux. You're going to see it blended there, but Bordeaux is a great place to go for Merlot. Italy, different parts of Italy do Merlot very well. Again, it's all over, but it's hard to find in most stores. The place I would go for a good Merlot is Washington State. And what I have selected is Chasing Rain, Red Mountain. Ooh. It's a firework or something. Chasing Rain, Red Mountain Merlot, 2020 vintage. Washington State might be my favorite area in the U.S. right now for growing red wine. They tend to present Washington State, Columbia Valley as something halfway in between Napa and Bordeaux. It really isn't. I mean, it is a desert of volcanic rock. It is a radically different place to grow wine from either of those two places. But the wines are fantastic. They're very, very concentrated while still, having a lot of acid and grit and herbaceous goodness to them. I love Washington State red wines. And particularly, I think the Merlots are pretty darn good there. This is from Red Mountain, which is, just one of the best areas in Willamette Valley. Columbia Valley. The name Chasing Rain is a little bit of a joke because it basically never rains on Red Mountain. You have to irrigate there if you're going to grow anything. This is... Oh, yeah, it's not all Merlot. There's a little bit of Petit Verdot in there to give it even more structure. Anytime you see Petit Verdot added to something, it means they're trying to add structure, and that's a good sign. It means it's not going to be too gloopy. Also aged in 20 months in 25% American oak, which means you will be getting some vanilla on this, which is not bad, in this context. I want a kind of aggressive style of Merlot, which I'm hoping this will provide. It can sometimes get a little bit vegetal too, although it's more of an olive thing on Merlot. So I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping for the aggressive, edgy, kind of smoky style of Merlot, plus some nice oak to round it off. I think this will be a fantastic wine for burgers or maybe brisket, that kind of thing, barbecue. Yeah, hoping this will be good. Anyway, so yeah, Merlot. I don't know what to tell you to look for with Merlot. Just be careful about the crap from California and the big brands. Generally no one puts out a Merlot unless they care. So it's kind of a good sign if you see one, honestly. All right, that concludes our selection of single varietal wines. Let's do some regions now. Let's start with Chianti in kind of eastern Tuscany, away from the sea. Chianti tends to be dominated by a group called Sangiovese, which is the the prototypical Italian grapes. I really wish I had more Italian wine in here. If I had a 13th wine, it would have been a Barolo or something. Oh well, this is really the only classical Italian wine in here. Sangiovese, another grape that tends to be higher in acidity and even higher in tannins, depending on how it's made. But it can present very Pinot-like, except it's tends to be more herbaceous than I think Pinot, and a little bit less kind of umami in its characteristics. I also tend to get like some brick kind of characters out of Sangiovese a lot. Anyways, cooler climate Sangiovese here. This is Donna Laura Alteo Chianti Reserva, and this gets around. Where do I start with Chianti? I'm going to keep this simple. There is a original Chianti region called Chianti Classico. You tend to see a lot more. Those tend to cost a little bit more money than regular Chiantis. There's a separate designation called Reserva, which indicates it's aged for a little bit of time. Can be in oak, but I think also in bottle. And I think a really good value spot is sometimes the Chianti Reservas, not from the Classico region, so from outside of Classico. This is one of them. I think this is a lovely, lovely little classical Italian wine. Break out all the pastas and pizzas and lasagnas and that stuff. Chianti's fantastic. Chianti's amazing. Again, same kind of rules. Check the ABVs. I would lean towards some stuff below 14%. Above, once you're at 15 or something, just put it back on the shelf. This is 13.5, which is about what I want to see. Yeah, I think this will be good. I will probably throw some pizza at this. Moving on. Bordeaux. Bordeaux in southwestern France, one of the most famous wine regions in the world, and deservedly so. Some of the most age-worthy red wines in the world, along with a whole bunch of other style of wines that people don't care about because they don't, don't get me started. Okay, Bordeaux. Predominantly Merlot most of the time, depends on where you are. But you will also see Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and a couple of other varietals kind of floating in there. So I think the values in Bordeaux are, sometimes you'll see Bordeaux Superiors, which are generic Bordeaux. You can grow them anywhere in the region, but have additional requirements for how old the vines are and basically how well it's produced. And also some of the regions that don't get a lot of love. There's some really, really famous regions in the Bordeaux that are particularly expensive. Pauillac, Pomerol, some big names. But there's also like little smaller regions like Fronsac here, or Côte de Bourg, or Listrac, or the Côtes de Bordeaux kind of collective, Côte de Castillon. Those are great, great little values, and those tend to be what I grab when I'm grabbing a Bordeaux. Look for the named regions in Bordeaux. If you're looking for value, look for the named regions in Bordeaux that that are not the famous ones, I would say. This I'm kind of rolling the dice on. I don't know this producer. This is Clos du Roi from Fronsac. Fronsac is a left bank. I'm getting too nerdy here. It's from the part of Bordeaux that tends to be associated with Cab, but is actually more Merlot dominant. That's Fronsac, and this is a 2020, which is a really good vintage for Merlot in Bordeaux. And I think there's a little bit of Cab Sauvignon and Cab Franc blended in here too. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Anyways, this was not expensive. This was about $16 or $17. Again, the only thing and it's from a vintage that I adore. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is the ABV is 15%, which is a touch high, but I'm hoping this can keep this contained. I will probably make some lamb with this and have a grand old time. Bordeaux, one of the great wine regions in the world. Go throw one in your pack. What's next? Rioja. Oh yeah, I wanted to do some Spain, and this was my pick. Rioja is a very, very old wine region in Spain, led by Tempranillo, but like Bordeaux, it tends to be blends. And it's one of the best places in your local wine shop to go if you want wines with age on them. I can't really talk about age in this video because we're running long as it is, but generally red wines with age on them have had more time to kind of relax and grow into themselves and develop some more complex notes. And they're not necessarily better, but often they do benefit from it, particularly with food. So I adore Rioja. It's apart from Cabernet Franc, it's probably the second place where I would if I had two wines to pick to drink for the rest of my life, it would probably be Cab Franc from Loire Valley and Riojas. What have I picked? I picked Flor de Baco, which is kind of an example in point. This is a 2016, and it is currently on the shelves for, I think I paid $13 for this. It's not even expensive. This is a Reserva. I will not explain the whole Rioja classification system, but it requires you to hold wines back way longer than almost any other region I can think of. This is a blend of 85 Tempranillo, which is kind of the Spanish grape, 10% Garnacha, also known as Grenache, and 5% Graciano, which is a kind of a local Rioja grape, a little bit higher in tannins, darker, smaller grape. This is one of my house wines, honestly. I have a ton of this stuff in the back, and I'll just break it out for whatever. What I'm gonna have with this? I'm gonna make a duck or something. I think this would be a really good wine for duck. So dark fruit, a little bit like a black tea character on this, and a fair bit of oak, but not intrusive oak. Good oak. That is what that is, and that was my pick for Rioja. I don't really know. Yeah, so go for the good vintages in Rioja. So 2015, 16, 18 was okay. I think 19 was okay too. I have to kind of review my notes, but go look up a vintage chart. Buy good vintages of Rioja, and they generally just don't tend to suck. Assuming they say Crianza, Reserva, or Grand Reserva on them. And I wanted to do a German Riesling because I think they're phenomenal wines. Let me tell you what this is first. This is a George Albrecht Schneider Niersteiner Hipping Riesling Spätlese. And it's from Rhine. Rheinhessen, not Mosel. Riesling is another grape that kind of gets misunderstood. It's a little bit like Sauvignon Blanc in certain kinds of ways because it is extremely aromatic, but without the kind of herbaceous thing that Sauvignon Blanc does. It can be divisive. And it's also extremely high in acidity. Honestly, if you're like hosting a party and half of them hate Chardonnays and half of them hate Sauvignon Blancs, a dry Riesling would not be a bad idea. So if you want dry Riesling, there's a ton of them out there. Austria would be the first place I would go, because goddamn, Austrian Riesling is really good right now. But also Alsace in France, really kind of around the world. There's a lot of good dry Riesling being made. But I didn't want to do a dry Riesling today. I want to do the sweet Riesling. But just so you know, there is an impression out there that Riesling is naturally sweet. It isn't. That's just a winemaking choice. Any wine you want can be as sweet or as dry as you want it to be, depending on, I guess your starting sugar level and when you stop fermentation. But so this is a I don't want to get started on the German classification system. Basically, German wine has its own classification system, and it's extremely complicated and weird. Once you're at the top level of Prädikatswein, there's a sub-classifications based on the weight of the must. And what you say, why does that matter? I don't really understand. But basically, you have, if a wine says Trocken on it, that trumps everything else. It means the wine is dry. If it says, if it doesn't say Trocken, but it says Cabernet, it's going to be a little bit sweet, but not too sweet. If it says Spätlese, we're going to be approaching kind of medium sweet territory. Auslese and up, you're approaching, true dessert winey stuff. But this is Spätlese, which will give you the it's still very. You're still in like appley, lemony kind of territory with this style, but you're starting to get a little bit of pineapple stuff in there, maybe a little bit of dessert apple as well. I adore these wines. My wife loved these wines even more, and I will probably. What'll I do? I might just make some teriyaki chicken for the kids and pop this while we're enjoying it. All kinds of spicy foods, half sweet foods. Sweet barbecue. Riesling is great. And yeah, if I had another case to do, I would have thrown a dry Riesling in there because they are awesome as well. And they tend to just get underrated because people think it's got to be a Chardonnay or it's got to be a Sauvignon Blanc. No. Don't forget about dry Riesling. All right, and I've got two more. I wanted to do a Rosé, I mean, the classic place to go for rosé would have been southern France or something. But I did not want to go to southern France because I wanted to sneak another Italian wine in here because I felt bad that I didn't have enough Italian wines in the case. So I've never tried this before, but this is a rosé from Salento in Puglia. That's the boot of Italy. So far southern Italy, made from Negro Amaro. And I've never had this, but on paper, this is exactly what I want from rosé. It should, because Negro Amaro tends to, again, have sky-high acidity to it. And I want my rosés to have sky-high acidity. I should explain. Rosé is just a style of wine made by macerating your red grape juice on their skins for considerably less time, usually less than a day. Because, fun fact, most grape juice, with a couple of rare exceptions, is not actually red, even if it comes from red or black grapes. It is just clear. So it gets its color from maceration on the skins. So you want a rosé, you just macerate for a lesser period of time, or you just press it straight off if you want a really, really light rosé. Anyways, I know nothing about this. It's made by Tormaresca, which is a good producer. It's called Califuria. It is the 2024 vintage. Rosé is tricky because I would just check the cellar tracker, check everything. Rosé is made all over the world, and you just kind of know. I don't know. I don't know if there's really no tricks with rosé. You just gotta find a good one. This will. Oh, what'll I have with this? Honestly, like a fried chicken wine would go great with this. Probably, I will try that. I'm gonna forget all of my food pairing suggestions the second I finish recording this, but that would be my thought right now. I think this would be a good fried chicken wine. And lastly, I want to do some bubbly, and this is where I splurged a little bit. Rotor Estate. This is usually tagged around $30 around here, but it's constantly on sale. I managed to get this for $25. Rotor, of course, is a Champagne estate, way up in northeast France. But they set up a colony in California, in Anderson Valley, way back when no one cared about Anderson Valley. Bought up a ton of land and are now making this. I'm not going to try to explain all of sparkling wine in a second, but suffice it to say, there's a couple of different ways of making it. If you are just doing one fermentation, so you start with some grape juice, sweetie sugary grape juice, pour that in a bottle, throw some yeast in, close it up, and let one fermentation happen where you get both your alcohol and your bubbly. That is called a pétillant naturel, and they're fun, and they tend to be light, and sometimes your bottle explodes, and they're very, very unpredictable, let's say that, and I tend to find them overpriced, but that's one way of doing it. You can also do what's called a tank method of making a sparkling wine. How do you get your bubbles in your wine? Which is where you make a base wine. You take some grape juice, you ferment it as if it's going to be a still wine, and then you put a little bit of extra sugar. You put it in a tank, what's the name? You add a little bit of extra sugar and a little bit of extra yeast, have a secondary fermentation, bubble, and then at some point you just you hose it into a bottle, and then you put a cork on and you sell it. So the secondary fermentation is done in a tank. This is champagne method, also called a traditional method. And what is happening here is you're also making a base wine somewhere else, and then you were putting that base wine in a bottle, and then you were adding a little bit of sugar and a little bit of yeast into your bottle for secondary fermentation, whammo. You're getting the yeast out through a very complicated method I'm not going to talk about, and whammo, you have your champagne-style sparkling wine. These tend to, I think this is the ones worth buying. They just tend to have finer bubbles. Tank method can sometimes have like a more fruity character. I don't know if it's worth it. They're not really my thing. However, this is a great little value, and it's made basically like a champagne, but it's way better than the kinds of champagne you can get typically under $30. Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, as I recall. You do get a little bit of a breadiness. That's because of the presence of the lees, the dead yeast, and it's just a really good champagne style wine. It's austere, so this is not one I would pop for like a party or something, or a celebration. Although you could, I would have this with seafood. I think like a shrimp risotto or something would go really well with this. Anyway, that is my last selection. In general, with sparkling wine, I mean, look at particularly if you want traditional method. Cava is going to be the cheapest. I love cava. I would love to throw a cava in here, but it can be a little bit floral and herbaceous and a little bit weird for some people. I love it, but bear that in mind if you're buying. And I think domestic sparkling wine, U.S. sparkling wine, is vastly overrated. If it says traditional method or champagne method on there, and it's not too expensive, it might be worth a grab. Also in France, you've got what's called the Cremant. Cremant basically means champagne-style sparkling wine, made not in Champagne. Those are often worth a grab as well. I just thought it would be fun to go to Cali for the sparkling wine, because it's not really something people think of. Anyways, that is my 12 bottles. I will taste these out over the course of the next few months and try to give you all reports on them. And this is a much longer video than I thought it would be. Thanks for watching, and cheers.